Bedelia, Sterling Estate, Agent J. It's coming now, Amelia Bedelia, Agent J, dive point.
Jonker's well clear with 100 metres left to go. 3-4 lengths in front, and Jonker bolts in the keep now. Jonker's run it brilliantly.
In front, Chief Anthony is thundering home. Stewksbury Stamp over a length in front of Chief Anthony. He'll win it. Stewksbury Stamp has beaten Chief Anthony.
Yes, but Sound darts away. Sound is clear, and Sound is going to win the Zipping Classic in a sprint with Rimmer-Brox.
G'day punters, welcome to the Sydney Review Show. Not so much Sydney this weekend, as we all know, we're up at Newcastle for Saturday's race card, featuring the Hunter, featuring the Spring Stakes. There's plenty to get through. We'll be reviewing races 4 and then the quaddie legs 6 through 9. Rob Scurry, I'll start with yourself. What was it like having to bet from home and not being able to be on course for one of your favourite race courses?
Oh, it was a bit sad, but at the same time, I was having a fantastic week on the punt, and I had a great morning on Manly Beach with the family, had a great breakfast, and 2:30, I just thought I'll go back to the hotel room and catch a bit of Channel 7. And first bet Superium in Newcastle, and it didn't get much better than that.
Yes, we'll touch on Superium shortly. Mark Shean, overall the day at Newcastle, there was some pretty reasonably run races, some big fields. It was quite competitive, but overall, did you get a general feeling for the day?
They were big fields, and as you said, competitive racing. I had a mixed day, up and down all day. A few contentious issues that we'll probably go through later on with Superium and Strawb. So plenty to talk about in racing as usual.
Okay, excellent. And Mark Rhoden, overall, the day for yourself. And we must also point out that starting as of today, Mark Rhoden has officially joined the Mailbag team. So it's a pleasure to welcome you on board in an official capacity, and look forward to helping you take your service to another level.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Yeah, exciting new chapter for me personally. Glad we didn't start on Saturday. We would have finished slightly behind. Through the cracks would have repaired the damage in the last, but there were some nasty seconds for me. I managed to get Natural Weather beaten in a photo at good odds on Enchanted Heart in race 7, and Northern Night in the Highway. Well, how it got beaten, I don't know. But it was a funny old day's racing because there were, plenty of hard luck / controversial beats for the punters going on all day.
Yes, indeed. Well, speaking of which, let's start with race 4 at Newcastle, featuring Superium, who did jump favourite, but there certainly wasn't any real money for him during the day. Gradually drifted out as the day unfolded. And if anyone wants to read the Stewards report, it'll probably take you about 2 or 3 minutes to get through the case of Superium by itself. Basic overview: the horse from the awkward barrier they wanted to ride conservatively. It's ended up being blocked for a run for the entire of the straight, and it's turned out to be 3 out of 5 lane post-race. Rob Scurry, talk to us about Superium.
Oh, look, this is a horse I've done about 25 units on, I reckon. I should be square on it. When Bossy rode it for a victory against True Detective, this is a horse that's haunted me for a while. I had it as a golden... the Magic Millions. I thought it was a good bet in the 3-year-old race up there. Got good overs that day. It's a decent type of horse, who I think races best fresh. Looked perfect, 1,000 up to 1,200 metres with a bit of a space between the run. What is it, a benchmark 72? I've always thought he's a better type than a 72 type horse. So I just to me, it just looked like a bet, and I should have walked away after this. Just watching Louise Day just gradually go from last at Newcastle back to the inside seems slightly illogical to me when you're back last anyway. But another Superium tail. There we go.
Exactly right. Look, overall, it's a fast run race for the class. On the punting form data, they've gone 3.4 lengths fast to the 600. Bring the Ransom has managed to nail some real step. Both of them are going around at double figure quote. Mark Shean, are you taking much out of race 4? And really, when you watching Superium in the run, what are you thinking?
Look, nothing went really right for her here. Macambo came up outside her from about the 700 and put her in between horses. And I've watched the replay several times. The horse in front, I Salute, was getting checked and was shifting about quite a bit. And when she eventually got away from it, St Covered Spirit came out off the rail and shafted it again. So I don't know what else she could have really done. I know it's disappointing if you're on it, but just everywhere she went, there were just gaps closing all the time. I fluked a little bit on the winner here. I did back several runners in the race, but I think I've had a birthday here because I think there were quite a few unlucky runners. Pandano, I thought, was an outstanding run. He was having his first run from a long spell and was badly held up most of the straight, and Darled was also badly held up. So I think a lot of horses could be forgiven for this race, but I think Pandano certainly one to follow, and Superium, just a hard luck tail, unfortunately.
Yeah, that often seems to be the way for Superium. And certainly, as you pointed out, Darled went to the line with basically not ever being tested. I think it's fair to say. Mark Rhoden, we didn't preview race 4 on the previous show. Did you have any thoughts leading up into this event?
Yeah, guess what 2 horses I backed at odds? Pandano and
Pandano. I was on Pandano as well. My folks had a big boom on that when it beat Bollywood in its maiden. Start in the millennium.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my personal tale of woe on the race. They could arguably put up on it actually, but yeah, to the bigger issue that everyone wanted to talk about with Superium, I think a lot of people straight after the race, and especially if you've done your money, wanted to say it looked hot and so on. I don't think that's the case. I think what it really is a consequence of burdening an apprentice with perhaps too many instructions.
Yeah.
How it panned out, obviously, was not how it was meant to go, but when you're asking an apprentice who doesn't have a huge strike rate to, okay, what you're going to do here is drag it out the back, then get through traffic, get to the outside, and whoosh, home you go. There's just a little bit against it. And I think that's actually what might have been driving the drift was the map and the setup, you know, and the tactics. So I don't think there's anything sinister, certainly horrendous to watch if you're on it. And also the fact that it's pulled up lame, that might explain the fact that it seemed to be hanging a bit on the turn when she was trying to extricate a passage. So it might have even been feeling its legs as well. So literally nothing's gone right, but I'm not inclined to think there was anything too sinister going on.
Yeah. Okay, we'll jump to race 6, which was the Spring Stakes, the Group 3 over 1,600 metres. The Elanora was found at a price, gradually firmed in from 9 a.m. on the day, and managed to defeat High Supremacy. We were talking about Ellsberg being a pretty decent chance, and Mark Shean didn't necessarily have the best lead up into the event. Just take us through race 6 there.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I was on Ellsberg, and he just played up. 2 other horses were playing up out wide. He was standing well, and then they settled, and he started to play up just as the starter let them go. So he missed the start. He was probably 2 to 3 lengths off them after 30 or 40 metres. He drove up, and the 2 horses that went with him are still in intensive care. Perfect Radiance and what was the other one? The Real Impact horse at the top. So Howie's battle on to finish 3rd after going out. I've got him going out a second faster than the other mile race on the day. So he's done a great job to run 3rd. The Elanora, well, he got a beautiful run back on the rail. He produced an outstanding figure 2 starts ago at Newcastle, the first time in blinkers, and then he failed. Well, he was beaten on a wet track at Randwick, and here's a Reduced Choice, so back on top of the ground, obviously, was a help there, and they found him in the betting, but I was on Ellsberg myself.
Okay. Rob Scurry, run us through a couple of these gallopers in the Spring Stakes in terms of types.
Well, I had Elanora on top when it got beat on Melbourne Cup Day in a which just might turn out to be a half-decent form race, sort of map against that day. I think I described him as a perfect waller, coat great. And yeah, for him to win and me not to be on him is, just shows how my day was going at this point. Because, like Mark Shean, I thought this Ellsberg with that easy far form, I think this is where it's at for the 3-year-olds at the moment. We're at the end of the carnival now. All the good horses are going to go away, so we're looking for fresh blood. And I think that's a pretty good race. The Snowden thing that won that race, Kermit, something out of Kermit. Yeah, Commander. He might be a horse to go to a Saturday race.
Yeah.
A maiden on a Melbourne Cup Day program is one of the time-honoured Spring Stakes. That makes me a bit sick. But yeah, Ellsberg, I was on Ellsberg. I backed it before the race thinking it was going to lead and I wouldn't need to lay off. And yeah, I watched you guys' preview show. Mark Shean just said each way all day sort of thing, and I didn't follow him in. But then again, I didn't lay Avilius the place on a good track. So, how dumb am I?
Just run Avilius for us, Rob. Just recap your thoughts on that galloper.
Oh, look, I had it going for a huge result on a suitable Caulfield Cup track, and it with the other good Sydney, the very, very good Sydney horse, Very Elegant, and the RIP horse. They were the only three I backed in the race. We went hard in the multiples, those three. Yes, so look, this horse has proven time and time again. I saw it when it was running against Colding earlier in the spring when Libertini got up that day. It didn't. On a good track, it just doesn't race properly. And, it's a borderline champion horse from a stable that doesn't need the cash. I can't understand why they continue to run it on really firm tracks when, we'll come to autumn and there'll be plenty of options for it. Or why didn't they run it in the Cox Plate? That day, it boggles me. I obviously, don't have a job in racing other than mailbag, but, they do. They've got anyone who they can pay for, and this is their headline, middle distance horse, and who, to me, it looks like borderline cruelty.
Cool.
Because it's cruel to punters, but this horse, he's a noble beast. He wants to race, to give his best, and run past other horses, and I don't think he's letting down on the good tracks, and we've seen too many instances of it. So sporting to distribute that stable.
Mark Rhoden, the winner, the Elanora, I think it actually had the highest overall benchmark rating on punting forms data heading into the event from memory after that second to commanding. Just run us through your thoughts of this race.
Well, I've messed it up pre-race. I thought the three originally at the head of the market, Perfect Radiance, Ellsberg and Real Peace were the ones to beat. They've all done each other no favours with the way their tactics in the first 400. I think overall the pace isn't going to read that strong if you measure it from the last 600 or 400 only, but they've gone too hard in the first 4 to 600 and then tried to back it off, I think, which the damage was already done, in my view. Anyway, yeah, it was a great effort from Ellsberg to fight on. The market tuned into the winner and second, who I think are the 2,000 metre horses in the race. So maybe the market was banking on a strong pace, and that's certainly the way it's panned out. I missed it. I like the Elanora's run. I think that Cup Day Maiden is going to be a pretty good form reference. Commanding's looks pretty smart to me. And High Supremacy on its breeding is certainly looking for further. So the market's got this one right, and I've got it wrong. That's the reason why the two horses that wanted a mile minimum have come to the fore here.
Yeah, can't we say Ellsberg was a good thing if it just jumps?
Yeah. I mean,
like what price he should? How good is the market? How do they know it's going to bloody miss the start? This thing should be even money.
Perhaps we're all on delay. We're not just getting the feed on delay, but our whole lives are about 30 seconds behind these guys.
Simulation, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, something like that.
We'll save that for another show. We'll jump to race 7, which was the Hunter, the $1 million event for the 3-year-olds and over 1,300 metres. They've gone slow here for the class, 4.5 lengths slow in the punting form data to the 600. Rob Scurry, give us an overview of the Hunter from your perspective. Sweet Deal has defeated Special Reward. We tried to lead him up, and Asiago ran on for third.
This is just bad from me. I was in a bad place. I just thought my old mate Huber would make it a huge day for me. We'd get out and kind of lead and kick on. I thought with a lighter weight. He's as you know, I think he's my favourite horse. Maybe him or Baller. I'm not sure. I do have issues. But yeah, I backed him. I had something on Trumbull when he jumped, who turned out to be lame. Special Reward, powered to the stable. I thought that horse was, a lay all day, but he's got it to run a huge race on the big day up there. And look, the winner, Sweet Deal, is genuine mare, But to me, she's in my mind like Erathea, She seems to be around forever.
Yeah.
Very, very good on a day, and just credit to that stable. John Thompson keeps them going. So yeah, I backed the wrong John Thompson horse. So that's okay. Just looked like a welter. What's worth $1 million? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly right. Mark Shean, sweet deal's just another strong mare. Nash on board, lobbed in a nice spot because it's easy enough in hindsight, but they've gone very slow here, and that hasn't necessarily helped a lot of the horses back in the field.
Yeah, they did go out very slow. I've got them about 36.9 for their first 600 average, so that's pretty slow. Yeah, look, I thought Sweet Deal might have been cooked after that first up hard run, and a couple of runs after that have been a bit flat in my opinion, but I certainly got this wrong. She was well tipped around the place, and also Lizzie made it pick of the yard, so obviously she'd done well. She does have a good record at Newcastle, so good training performance by John Thompson to pick her up again after a couple of indifferent runs. So I thought coming to the turn, Asiago was going to win the race. It looked to be jogging to me, but just that slow tempo up front and those inside horses just seemed to get a kick on the turn. So I thought her run was full of merit. Evelina, another one who gets back and needs a bit of luck, and I just think the early tempo was against her. She ran on honestly again.
Mark Rhoden, the market found a couple in this event at a longer price. One of them was Chief Ironside, which I think they might have backed once before at Newcastle from the top of my head. And one of the others was Senior Fox, which managed to settle itself a little bit closer in run. Was that purely a map perspective from the market there?
I'd certainly say so with Signore Fox. Chief Ironside, I'm not sure. He's got some good figures at his best. And McDonald was booked, so it looked like it was, all systems go. I thought 1,300 was too short for Chief Ironside. They've both been pretty well beaten, as it's turned out. Market spot on the Trumbull. I backed it when it drifted. I had to. I thought it might be, up really close from 13. There didn't look to be a lot of speed on paper, and there wasn't. But when it was back in the second field, it was in trouble. Didn't finish off well enough and pulled up lane. That's why. I also found Redouble in this at huge odds. Tom Sherry's got it in to the running line from one of the outside barriers. A fantastic performance, and the horses unfortunately had a cardiac arrhythmia and been beaten about 200 metres. So best laid plans there. There's not a great deal to talk about out of the race. They're listed company horses racing for $1 million. One that might be interesting. It wasn't unlucky or anything, but it ran okay, was Galway. I think they're backing it up next week in the Gong down at Kembla over a mile. So this could be very much a tune-up race for that. And, he's competitive in this grade. His handicap rating might be too high to actually win a race of this calibre at this stage of his career, but I suspect he's going to be primed on the day.
Yep. That makes sense to me. Race 8 was over 1,400 for the fillies and mares, benchmark 78. In terms of the pace, they've gone very fast for the class, 5.8 fast on the punting form data to the 600. Genuine tempo. The winner, great news for Kim Moore, is knocked off Enchanted Heart, or managed to hold on, I should say. But we'll talk about Strawb first and foremost. Mark Shean, I didn't see what had happened on the day. I was too busy being drowned at Ascot, and then there's no replays, so to speak, of what happened before the race. So for my benefit, run me through it.
Yeah, well, when the horse did rear up, I thought to myself, well, this will be scratched for sure. And after the running of the race, I was able to go back on Foxtel there and tape that, put that on Twitter. And it does appear that the horse did strike its head on the petition at the back of the gate when it reared up. Now, Mark Van Gestel has gone on radio this morning and said that the stewards have a Hawkeye situation in the bunker whereby they can look at that vision while the horse is being unloaded to be vetted. He stated that the horse did not strike its head. Look, we can only go on what we've seen as punters, and to my eye, the horse did look to come in contact at some stage. I don't know what Mark thinks, but it'd be nice if the stewards, for integrity purposes and also animal welfare purposes, would release that footage, because without punters, there's no industry. They're running $1 million races. It's all coming from punters. So it'd be lovely to actually see that. I'll be happy to be wrong. I was on it. I've done my money. I was probably venting a little bit. But I'd love to see that vision, if it's possible, that they can put it on the Racing New South Wales website and allay the fears of many people who backed the horse that they didn't do their money cold.
And certainly reading the steward's report, there's no mention of the horse striking its head or anything like that. It basically says, when questioned, Rider K. Jennings stated after being fractious in the barriers and being removed for a vet inspection, the mare trotted freely and he was satisfied that it was suitable for it to take its place in the field. The horse was slow to recover, no other abnormalities detected, but it certainly doesn't mention anything of a pre-race incident, so to speak, other than being fractious. As you said, disappointing, but you quite often see that, don't you, in terms of not all the vision being presented there for punters after the race, whether it's a head-on or something like that. It still feels like we're in the Stone Age, but it's just racing. Just racing.
Well, from the back of the barrier, it did look like the head was in line with where the padded. It is a padded petition, but it did look like, because of the position where she had flung herself back on her hind legs, that she had lurched forward on 2 occasions and possibly come in contact. Now, as I said, I'll be happy to say I'm wrong, but if the stewards would put that vision on, it would be fantastic for punters across Australia who back Strawb.
Exactly. Mark Rhoden, what are we doing in this race going forward? Obviously, the favourite has had the issue pre-race. It hasn't been able to do anything at all as a result. And then great news, and Enchanted Heart have fought out the finish with a gap to the rest of them.
I think they've gone pretty well, first and second. They're good, solid Saturday class horses at least. I didn't know that the stewards had that technology available to them, let alone, releasing the footage or not. That was news to me in itself. It certainly, if it has hit its head and they've missed it on the footage, it certainly would be the only sport guilty of that. The AFL and NRL have done that, stuffed things up from their bunkers more than once, so they wouldn't be on their own. It certainly raced like it hit its head.
Yeah.
That's the biggest piece of evidence I can think of. It was first beaten. Well, I suppose it and Superium were the 2 really ugly incidents for punters on Saturday. But that said, all being well, I can't guarantee it would have won, because I think Great News and Enchanted Heart have gone really well, and they put a space in the others. I suppose the market had narrowed it down to those 3. The winners in particular was really well backed. But you're entitled to feel sick if you're on Strawb, because it certainly does appear that I think done your money cold is the right phrase to use.
Rob, run us through race 8 there from your perspective on Saturday.
Yeah, look, I was losing my shit. I think this was just after Baller flashed home at Doomben, but I launched into Strawb. Didn't like it. I got a little bit off as they were vetting it. I didn't quite want the position I had, which is a good thing to be able to do. Vet checks rarely end well. Look, it never looked like it was gonna win after about, 600 metres. Just one of those things. Look, Racing New South Wales, where a horse dies, they don't show us that. Horse bangs their head, they don't show us that. They're doing it for our own good, just to save. Just trust them. They know what they're doing.
We can trust them. If they've stated that it hasn't hit its head, it'd be fantastic for us to trust them and show us.
They could just shut everyone up in one fell swoop. So
Exactly.
I'm just watching the footage you've tweeted now, Mark Shean, and I'm just trying to work out if it hit its head 3 times or 2 times. Maybe 4. It does look like it has a bit of a double knock there on the way back in. We'll put it up so the punters at home can obviously have a look, but my goodness, just chalk it up.
Sorry to interrupt. What's that bit about K. Jennings saying he thought the horse trotted freely and was fit to start? What's it got to do with him?
I don't know.
Well, I think they talked to the vet once he's laid back aboard. I think they probably have a discussion as to how it feels, but it probably wasn't the main issue. They was worried about how it trotted up, and more worried about if it came in contact with the head.
I've never known an industry like racing to shoot itself in the foot so many times.
In the face.
That's just another way.
Yep. All right, race 9, something potentially to finish off the day. Through the cracks, we did speak about it a fair bit on the previous show, and James McDonald on board. It obviously was a big flashing light run last start, and it's managed to win the benchmark 88 of 1300. Even speed for the punting form data to the 600, 1.3 lengths fast. Rob Scurry, did you follow up with Through the Cracks?
No, my first bet on high-low this campaign. That's how I told you. This is how my day's going. It was. I did a lot of damage in a couple of hours, then I followed you in Perth. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, that never was just a shit bet. I thought high-low, big conditioning on him. I thought this stable, I was still dark on about Avilius. I don't know why. This is masochistic what I'm doing to myself here. Not backing Through the Cracks. Good horse. That stable I saw they had a winner the other day. They don't have too many runners, but this is obviously better than a Saturday horse. Do they back it up in the gong next week? I think it's winner only, isn't it?
Yeah. I would have thought so. Ben, what are your thoughts coming out of race 9 there with the winner and potentially any of the other horses to follow?
Yeah, well, they did seem to go along a bit to me, so I thought Edison did a good job here racing on speed. The pace certainly suited Through the Cracks, got into a good spot. Highlight travelled well to the turn but didn't let down, maybe just track a little bit too hard there because he looked to be travelling coming to the bend. And I thought Chap was a great run. They had to ride him back from when he drew out so wide. Got a lot further back than usual. He's a horse who can race up much closer than that. He's made up a lot of ground late, but I think Through the Cracks and Chat probably the two to follow out of that, with Edison, who was very brave, being on pace all the way.
Yeah. Mark Rhoden, it does appear that Edison's returned in good form so far this preparation.
Flying. He was one I mentioned on the previous show that, adding real depth to this benchmark 88, a really good benchmark race this one. He was really well back on the wet track first up and ran into Polo. Got very close, and he's run really well again. He's flying. Interesting market moves on Through the Cracks. I mentioned them on Thursday, but I hadn't backed it early, and by Saturday morning when it was into about 260 or something, I was not going near it. But then 10 minutes before the race, it's out to 440, 460. It did tighten up on Betfair very, very late, interestingly. Unlike some of those other horses like Trumbull that were just going one way. This one, there was a big move. What drove the market move was the big move for Too Big Fari, and High-Low and Chat was solid, so something had to give, and it was Through the Cracks' price at ease. But when it on the fair got to 460, 480, then they stepped in again and sort of knocked off that edge. But, it clearly wasn't completely unfancied. Yeah, it was my first winner for the day, saved the furniture, and despite the day I'd been having, when I saw him, McDonald get it to the outside of the top of the straight, I thought, this is home. Doesn't run by or anything, but he got the job done. And as I said, a pretty solid, good quality 88.
Yeah, I'd like to retract my earlier statement. It's not winner only. Chat's a good horse, and Edison's run.
All right, very good. We'll run through a couple of horses to follow. Rob, it's obviously a little bit tricky. You went in the yard, but is there one of the horses that you think going forward you might be willing to stick with?
Tommy Sherry, his ride on Super was incredible. The boy is flying. Mark Rhoden said something about his ride on a horse that cardiac arrhythmia. The way he blended into the race. He also got that thing home, which we were on Cup Day on Friday night at Canterbury. Never looked like getting beat.
He turned that into a tens on top. It was a horse in the race, but he turned it into a dead set tens on top.
I think the horse that beat it the other day at Randwick is actually quite good. I don't know what it's called. It's number 9 on the day. Jason Collett rode it, but that had the advantage. Yeah, pretty. That was a pretty strong meeting. Easy far. That's the other thing I'm waiting to see where that. It's still got a bit of condition to come, and I think that'll make more than a Saturday horse.
All right, very good. Mark Shean, a horse to follow or two from yourself?
I think Pandana, who was coming off a very long spell, I thought he was most unlucky in race number 4 and is normally very consistent once he gets into a campaign. And I thought Chat in the last was a very good run, just had to go too far back.
Yeah. And Mark Rhoden?
I've just dug up the horse Rob was mentioning that one on Cup Day, and it's Atlantic King, who is quite smart. I think he's right. What have I got it down here? Chat, I thought was a big run. Darleb, I'm going to be looking for possibly back to the midweeks. And also back to the midweeks, Bar None, who closed off quite well after being dragged a mile back to last. Darleb and Bar None, I'm not sure if they're real Saturday horses. Chat is, but there might be a midweek or night race for them coming up.
Very much so. Now, speaking of the week ahead, what have we got? We've got Wyong Wednesday, Hawkesbury Thursday, Rosehill on Friday, and then we're off to the Gong and the literal Gong, which I can't wait to see someone just have a crack at that thing and give it a good whack there on Saturday at Kembla Grange. Mark Rhoden, is there a highlight of the week ahead that's something that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, the striking of the Gong on Saturday, I think that'll be, even though they won't get the full crowd there, unfortunately, with the COVID restrictions, the 1,500 or 2,000 who are there are going to be in for a real treat when that thing gets smashed. Funny week. We've got Provincials Wednesday, Thursday, then Metro or Metro Standard Friday, Saturday. I assume it's a twilight at Rosehill on Friday. I haven't known them to do that before, but no doubt there'll be 8 winners to be found, and plenty of action. 5 meetings over 4 days for me to kick the service off for mailbag, so really can't wait to get into it.
Yep, very much so. Mark Shean, is there any of those meetings that you've got your eye on that you're going to be targeting?
I'll be there Wednesday and I'll be there Friday. I didn't get a ticket for the Gong, so I'll sit in the back in the office here and try not to tweet any bad Barry behaviour.
Get into it.
Yeah, exactly. Freedom of information, that's what it's all about. Rob Scurry, you're not going to be on course for Wyong or for Kembla Grange, but you'll be having a crack, no doubt.
I'll be betting. They'll be running. I'll be betting. I haven't had a look at Friday yet, but yeah, it's we're into that transition time. I think it's time to find fresh blood. Looking forward to plenty of betting to be done.
Alrighty, Mark Rhoden and Mark Shean will jump on board on Thursday and we'll preview the metallic musical instrument race. But until then, guys, have a good week and I'll speak to you shortly. All right, we're going to take a diversion even further north up towards Doomben. He was wound up the entire of Saturday. He cracked it Saturday night. He's back on board for the therapy session. Welcome, Shane Ciurleo, to the Sydney / whatever review show we're calling. We're going all around the grounds now.
Lovely. Thanks for having me, and thanks to the two boys there for wanting to listen to my therapy session. That'll be good fun. This next 5 minutes or so.
Well, where are we starting? I mean, which you bet into a million races as always. So, which race in Queensland took your fancy?
Race 9, I thought, was the highlight of the day. The Keith Now quality over 1,200. Saw a brilliant performance first up from Jonker here. Now, this was like stinging in a way because, I thought the horse, you wanted to see some intent from the stable or from, on the market. You wanted to see some money to say that this horse is going forward from the gate off a very nice trial because it had drawn wide. So, first up Queensland, new trainer, a little bit of money was always going to signal a little bit of intent, I thought. 21s all day. I never touched it. Then saw some movement, 21s into 11s. Then the horse that had won, that it had beaten the trial, Boomtown Lass, had won the previous race. So, there was some reference there out of the trial. But I thought, how much further can this hemorrhage? Let's just wait and take Betfair SP. It's not going to go off much more than this. Once I made that assumption, it was 11s into 750. And then I think it SP'd around 9 something on 950, somewhere around that on the fair. But it was substantially short of the totes anyway, which is a debate for another day regarding tote prices on horses that lead. As low as $7, $7.50. Anyway, look, it was a great return. It broke 1,058 day run of outs. Now, probably for Rob and Mark here can jump in and maybe, being the Sydney boys, and you would have seen this horse. Obviously chased some decent horses. It had that classic legend form, you know, I think it got within 4 lengths on a track that was probably more suited to Classic Legend and less suited to Jonker, the track condition. Did you guys, a bit of a question without notice?
That was in the June Stakes or something, which graded me out completely about Classic Legend. Is that the race you're talking about? Yeah.
He ran second to him in the Arrowfield in the championships as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
18 months ago. April.
I reckon he's got some baller form as well. But yeah, look, better than a decent type, for sure. You know, not a, you know, just it didn't look out of place in group and listed company. You know, not one I'd find probably in the numbers, but you know, always a you know, looked like it was going to run well. Davey Atkins, you know, is a try. Is a trainer of one of my former favourite horses called Impaler. Which was running about, I don't know, 15 years ago. Who went 1,000 up to 1,600 metre horse. But yeah, look, he doesn't have many horses. Obviously, you know, he's gone to a big stable and it just improved him and just set him up for, what do you call it, Curly? Is this a sting?
Yeah, look, there was always a bit of theatre in my tweets, as everyone should be accustomed to by now. I like to carry on a bit on the tweet for a bit of banter. Yeah, I mean, not so much a sting as, you know, not suggesting anything untoward or anything like that. Of course, it was just, you know, the market's completely missed this, and a lot of hindsight geniuses pointed that out to me on Twitter. That you know,
why haven't you found this?
Well, why wasn't it $3 then? You know, like, you know, this was the money was there. The money, you know, the money was there from you know, the right people, obviously, to signal the intent that we discussed. And look, this horse is it's ran on the punting form data. It's ran 9.9 lengths quicker than average, you know, a negative 9.9 figure. Now that figure in itself is good enough to win the last 3 Doomben 10,000s, which has changed in the last, from 2017. It went back from 1350 to 1,200 metre weight for age race. So last 3 winners were on the punting form data. The last 3 winners were the Bostonian negative 9.5. English negative 8.7 and Redzel negative 9.4, and Jonker's returned in minus 9.9.
And not only that, but it's also on the punting form data 1.7 lengths better than any of its previous starts for the previous stable. Now, Mark Rhoden, I'll ask you here. So what do you do with a horse that's not only recorded a PB first up, but a PB first up for a new stable?
Well, the stable change was a plus in itself, wasn't it? I mean, all due respect to D.I. Atkins, but that's the first thing to say. I think possibly the reason it's returned to PB on Saturday is because it's got control of a race, which that's when horses go to their best, when they're able to dominate a field like that. You know, in Sydney, he won his first 2 starts as a 2-year-old and was then probably, if not overrated, well, his options were limited. He had to run in good company for the rest of his career then. And in the field, especially in Sydney, you know, when you're running against the likes of Classic Legend, who was flying as a 3-year-old, you're not going to be able to dominate many fields like he was able to dominate on Saturday. So, you know, he's just got in a great position. He's, you know, no pain, loving life, and that's when horses run to their PB. I think that's got to be a big part of the reason.
I think, you know, also, like, this horse had a pretty, he had a pretty bad experience at the races, didn't he? Magic Millions Day as a young horse. I'm not sure whether that would have had some effect on his later career, but, you know, like you say, now that this is probably the first time in a long time he's been able to lead and control a race, you know, which I think, you know, it's a small thing maybe, but, you know, to me, I think it's a big impact. I think on his performance. The other thing is that, you know, there's no doubt that Tony Gollan's the best trainer in Queensland, and like for him to improve horses from down south is no shock at all. I mean, there's a list a mile long of horses that he has improved that have come up at the stable. You know, he's the best there. Like, I wouldn't say that the Brisbane training ranks is a retirement village, but there's a lot of trainers in Brisbane that have sort of plateaued at their careers, or, you know, they're not as hungry as what Tony is. And, you know, he uses the best jockeys in Queensland regularly on the right horses. He places them better than anyone in the game in Queensland. He believes in track bias, when not a lot of other trainers do. You often see Tony at the races, you know, discussing track bias with the jocks for the upcoming race, and, you know, planning race by race on where they want to be. Sounds like pretty basic stuff, but he's the best at them in Queensland, and I reckon that makes a big difference too. And there was clearly a signal of intent there to dominate that race from the wide gate and be on speed and be the one to beat. So I just thought they've executed it brilliantly. The horse has come back great. There's a little bit of Spirit of Boom about this horse potentially. I know it's by Spirit of Boom, and this horse was having its first run not only for Golan but for the new ownership group. There was a change of ownership there to get the horse to Queensland. It's still got its nuts. It is by Spirit of Boom, and I could sort of see this horse going on a path of Magic Millions and Snippets, 1,200 metre race in January. Just looks a pickup million, cool million. And like I said, with the figures that it's run there on Saturday and how that lines up, against the winter carnival type times in Queensland in the past, he could be a serious player based on that performance.
He starts very short wherever he goes next start, obviously now. Is that going to be a risk second up?
Oh,
I'll put it this way.
I suppose it's hard to see them. It's just from my experience and only my own observation, they're not 100% screwed down first up as a rule from this stable. So yeah, I sort of anticipate some improvement, but obviously second up after that big figures, it's always going to play in your mind. But
yeah, you don't like that, do you, Mark?
No, just as a general principle, off a first up peak, especially if it's going to be a short price, I'd just give it a miss on principle, especially if you've missed out at the big odds first up. You don't need to be charging in even money or something second up.
Sure.
It's always horse by horse, but as a general rule, that's the way I approach it.
Well, and from a racing point of view in Queensland, it needed to spark a little bit of interest. We read today that Command and Conquer, that smart winner last week, has been sold to Hong Kong, where he'll likely race as Dragon Win Happy King Prawn. Something along those lines. And that's a bit of a shame. I know that he was vetted to go to Hong Kong last prep and they pulled out late and obviously got the money this time. So a bit of a shame to see it sort of go, but this horse certainly adds a little bit of excitement to the ranks.
And while we've got Mark and Rob on, should we just touch on race 8 with Boomtown Lass defeating Needle? But in third was Baller, Rob, your man. First start for Waller. Ditton was on board, and it's been, $10 into $6.50 or so, and it's run third. Rob, how many units will you be on for Baller next start?
It's got to be at least 5. I didn't get the memo that it was going back. I didn't even know it was running until 4 minutes before the race. And then got very, very excited. And I've just gone off a race too early, obviously. Like the Sydney horse Jonker has come in and destroyed him at a good price in the next race. But I think this is one of the best types of 4-year-olds. Look, there's him and there's Trope, who's also might turn out to be Tripe. Oh, see what I did there. There's whether they're any good, but yeah, look, this horse to me is he might be. I'm going to keep with him. I kept with Cuba. And he turned out to be all right, and I want to keep with Baller as I think he's a good, very, very. He is a very good-looking horse. He looks like a weight for age horse, and now Chris Waller's got him. Who's to know? I thought he was a controlling front runner, Mark Rhoden. Why is he going back to last?
That was my picture of him for sure.
Like Jonker. Did you know he was going to go back, Curly?
Oh, yeah. Look, I didn't think he'd be able to get there if he went forward in that field. I suppose it might sound silly to say in hindsight it should have won when the winner was 3 deep on speed and the second horse was 3 wide trailing position. I think it should have won the race anyway. I think it's better than them that beat it hard. It'll be winning next start. In same grade for sure. But the winner went well. It was no knock it, but I think Baller is certainly one you can follow out of that.
Well,
and so everyone else in your cop.
Yeah. I'm still a long way down on that horse. A long way down. Someone did take a $1.08 about it one day when this boom thing of Chris Waller's beat it at Rose Hill. Mark Rhoden, remember that? It looked like it was home, and this very highly touted, very well bred horse that started very, very short for the rest of its career and never won another race, got it on the line on a slightly wet track. He might actually even be better with a bit of you know, I don't know if cut out of the track, but certainly a 5 or a 6 might be better for him than a 3 or a 4. He's a big, heavy horse. I think he's a high chaparral by memory.
He is. Zalate might have been the horse, was it? Zalate?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Baller hit $1.08, and you've got to love those $1.08 bet pair punters. Just chiming into Baller at the 150. Anyway, that's about the only toe. No, he also beat. This is my Rain Man memory. He beat, maybe it's Discharged or it started with D, and it's got a green colours. Baller. He won at Kenzo one day at a decent price. So I'm not that far down on him. That's what I'm trying to say.
Beat Dunaton at Kensington.
Yeah. He won by 3 and looked pretty good.
Yep, that was the horse.
All right. Started with D. That's right.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, look, I'll be following and hopefully won't be doing my money.
You'll be right there following it. Seen a bit of in race 6 is probably a race just worth touching on quickly. We saw Ruka. Now this is an interesting little thing here. Picking up on patterns in Queensland. Robbie Fradd's form has turned around recently, and in direct correlation with that, so was Team Edmonds. Horses are, they're winning at a lot better strike rate than what they were a month or so ago. Robbie's riding more winners, so there's a direct correlation there. The ride on Ruka was the difference between winning and losing. Garibaldi sort of come into that race off one jump out, one trial, which was always half in my head. But I just thought it was the best horse and had the best map, and it would map in front of Ruka, and that should be enough. He was half tardy away again, Garibaldi, and settled further back, and then had to make a wide run a lot earlier than what they would have anticipated going into the race, and then he was just a bit susceptible late, and Robbie cut the corner on Ruka and got the run through, and the ride was the difference. That I know that we have a bit of a laugh at times that Garibaldi is hating the winning post and that sort of thing, and his form might suggest that. Like, he's just done enough to get me again in the same class, probably, at black figures. I had him a little bit in the red, and anyway, just the way it was. The better ride won the race on the day, and and that's all there is to it. You can make some slight excuses for Garibaldi. He was probably that last 50 sort of knocked up probably a little bit off the one trial. Maybe that's how I saw the race. But
he's going to start pretty short again, and you've got another decision to make, Curly.
I'll probably let it go this time.
Yeah, I know Mark Rhoden would probably let it go. He doesn't like these get-back short price horses.
No, there's a lot of things I don't like. It's amazing I ever have a bet, actually, all the things I don't like.
Well, that was probably it. There's a couple of, I'm not sure whether you watched the Red Steiner race, but that was, a little bit sticky. Like, I sort of anticipated she'd get back anyway. That's her running style, and you're sort of happy to come into those horses, at that $8 or $9 mark when there's some tempo, when they, can get home, and that's just her. She's not a betting proposition at a shorter quote, because that's her racing pattern, and you're going to need some luck. The rest of the races, Dominic King, I thought was good. I sort of expected to be the next horse sold to Hong Kong off that win. Honestly do.
Sometimes.
Good. We saw some nice horses on Saturday. I was against Dusty Tycoon with the jock swap, and I didn't send out the lay bet, but I did have a lay bet, and I'm not sure whether you guys saw that race too, but it's fell in with two horses flashing late. So I think we got away with a small win on the punt overall for the service, but it was a day of what might have been for sure there. But at least we saw some good horses, and it sort of gives us something to look forward to as we get closer to the Magic Millions Carnival and hopefully open borders. And if we don't see a race Magic Millions Day, we'll see the bottom of a heap of vodka and sodas and some good times at the casino on various functions.
Outstanding. All right, girls. Well, week ahead, you've got Rocky tomorrow, you've got Ipswich Wednesday, you've got Bow Desert Thursday, you've got Townsville Friday, Sunny Coast Metro on Saturday by the looks with Gold Coast Toowoomba, and then Rocky again on Sunday.
Yeah, just a punting palooza yet again. It's been really hot in Queensland over the last few days, and I'm definitely going to Ipswich Wednesday, and I think the Ipswich result Wednesday will determine of whether I'm going to be singing "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend" as I enter the gates at Bow Desert, Ackworth Park, Bow Desert on Thursday. We'll just see.
All right. Bloody good. Outstanding. We'll look forward to that, Curls. Thanks for jumping on board. And it's also welcome once more Mark Rhoden to the team. We're looking for a big sort of summer just to get a few things in order. Website will have Mark's stuff up as of this afternoon. And we'll kick into top gear to start 2021. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Can't wait.